And on Radio 97 for a Thursday morning, it's time to talk law.
And being Thursday, we're joined by Despina Priala of Priala Legal, who has over 25 years of experience in commercial and property law. And as our Radio 97 lawyer, we welcome her now. Good morning, Despina.
Good morning, Jess. Good morning, Wayne.
Morning, Despina. Well, today we're going to be talking something very interesting for people who are thinking about buying or selling property.
Yes, well, if you are buying or selling a house, Wayne, no doubt your transactions these days are happening online. And PEXA specialises in electronic settlements, which certainly seems the way of the future. So this morning, we're pleased to say we welcome Lisa Dowie of PEXA, which is an absolute pleasure. Good morning, Lisa.
Morning, Lisa.
Morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Despina and Wayne. Great to join you all.
Well, thank you for being part of the program. Now, let's start right at the beginning. For people who don't know what PEXA is, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Certainly, love to. So PEXA, in collaboration with the property industry, has really transformed the way property is exchanged in Australia. Some people might know, but the residential property market is Australia's largest asset class. It's worth $7 trillion. And it's one of the sort of last big asset classes in Australia to be digitised. So who we work with predominantly at PEXA is we've got 150 plus financial institutions who are part of our network, and more than 9,000 legal and conveyancing firms across Australia. So no longer do people have to meet up on the day of settlement and exchange bank checks and exchange a wad of documents that then get taken away and eventually processed. That all now happens within our PEXA exchange platform, and those same participants represent the buyers and sellers in that property transaction process. So quite a revolution. Transactions, property transaction had been happening the same way in Australia for almost 150 years. So it's been quite the transformation that's been underway over the last few years.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and say it's absolutely brilliant. So we're obviously, our firm's an active user and subscriber and has been for some time, as Lisa knows. And ever since we've jumped over to PEXA, we have absolutely loved it. And it's one of those things that once you go forward on this type of platform, you never go back.
You couldn't go back.
No, not at all.
Yeah. It's wonderful to hear that, Despina, and there's so many of our PEXA members across Australia who feel quite the same. I think it was quite daunting at one point in time to make the change, but as you said, once you start to wonder, how was I ever doing this the old way? You sort of really forget about, all those problems and the issues that you used to deal with in paper are just sort of diminished.
Oh, that's right. We see it as archaic at the moment. If we have to do a paper settlement, as you very well know, in Queensland, it's not mandated, and it's probably some of the things we'll talk about in this morning, but absolutely, and we just absolutely love it, and it's the way of the future.
Yeah, and people often sort of wonder, I guess, what it means for the buyers and sellers, who are actually transacting the properties. I guess it's good just to touch on what it means for them. So I think digitisation automatically means that it's going to be faster, it's safer, and it's a much more efficient, settlement experience. And I think particularly for the seller, they have, near real-time access to the proceeds of sale. So a lot of flexibility there, no longer waiting for bank checks to clear, which could often take days. And also buyers and sellers no longer really having to be involved with signing a lot of transfer documents or bank checks. I remember when I first bought my first property, going into my lawyer's office and signing a heap of documents that I probably didn't know what I was signing, but signed away nonetheless. But no longer do buyers and sellers have to be inconvenienced by that as well. And also, and Despina, I don't know if you've seen, but we have a new app as well that we give to our buyers and sellers who can actually see the settlement happening and be advised that settlement has occurred.
Yes.
But more importantly, communicate bank account details, because we certainly know that cybercrime and email phishing scams are on the rise. So PEXA's built an app to ensure that that is secure and actually provides a guarantee as well.
Yes, I've seen that. And this is one of the things I love about PEXA, is because ever since we've jumped on and become a user, an active user on a daily basis, PEXA has evolved just in the last 2 years and 3 years since we've been using it on a daily basis. And PEXA continues to evolve. And that's what I like about it, because it's continuing to meet the market and the consumer needs as we continue to change. And to be so proactive in these current times is fantastic to see. And I don't think everyone realises that that's how proactive PEXA is. And it's fantastic to see.
That's great. And the pace of change has never been faster, I don't think, in all of our lives. So, yeah, it is definitely something that we want to keep up with for sure.
That's right. And you mentioned before with not having to do paper documents anymore and having them in front of you to receive original wet signatures. We were just talking about that off air just before we started. And this is the thing in these times, particularly through COVID, as you would know, we had to deal so many times with remote situations, and we still do. And PEXA has just been an enormous benefit for those remote transactions, where
Streamlining, I guess.
Absolutely, and not having to have those original documents. We can actually verify clients remotely, and we can actually upload the documents on PEXA quite safely.
A system of ease by the sounds of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, as you said before, Lisa, so many benefits. As a user, for me, one of the main big benefits that you can never get with paper is this simultaneous settlements. And that is a huge benefit. I don't think people realise, and the listeners out there need to understand, in this market particularly, most of the people we look after, for example, they have to sell to buy, right? So they have to have funds from one transaction to be used in the second transaction, but it needs to all happen at on the same day.
It's a domino, isn't it? Yeah,
it's a domino effect, exactly. And what if you're transitioning from New South Wales to Queensland, and we're seeing this migration? And PEXA is the perfect platform that allows the simultaneous to link a New South Wales and a Queensland settlement together that happens at the same time is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and wouldn't have been possible really in the old paper-based process at all. So yeah, it's great, giving people a lot more flexibility, and I think it's rising to meet the demands of, the citizens of Australia in this day and age. This is what they want. They want that flexibility. Everyone's moving fast. That on-demand economy is, right on top of it. So I think it's definitely meeting the demands of our consumers and citizens of the country.
And with Queensland coming into the state, can you refer to how Gold Coast has actually adopted it more close to home?
Yeah, so certainly Queensland has been on a rapid trajectory over the last 12 months. Pleasingly, it's great to say that majority of property transactions in Queensland now happen online. So there is a high chance that any buyers and sellers out there listening today, if they're settling a property, it will happen on PEXA, so they do have that great certainty. And I think what we've definitely noticed, and Jasmina, you mentioned it earlier, is that COVID has certainly illuminated and highlighted the fragility of paper-based processes. So there's no doubt that I think many practitioners in Queensland got a bit of a fright when some of those restrictions came in Queensland. People couldn't be moving around as freely as they wanted to. And I think the vast geography of Queensland also lends itself to that move to digital. So we're really pleased to see the uptake that's happened in Queensland over the last 12 months.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, Lisa. It really, really has. And where do you see PEXA evolving? So I've talked about it on the show previously about how PEXA continues to evolve. Can you give us a little insight into some trends that we might see in the next few months?
Yeah, so I often think about what we might do next at PEXA. I always think about our purpose, which is to transform the property experience for everyone. So when I think about that, that really means to me about adding joy to the process of buying and selling a home, because we've all experienced and we know it's quite a big moment in everyone's life. So we want to make that process as easy as possible. And of course, that means focusing on lawyers and conveyancers and the financial institutions that use our platform, and ensuring that we make that as efficient as possible. Because if we can save people like yourself to spend time, it means you can spend more time with your valued customers, which is a win for everybody. I guess another big priority for us is cyber security. We invest a lot at PEXA in the security of our platform, and it's absolutely the underlying foundation for everything we do. So we'll definitely be continuing in that space. We have to keep on top of the cyber criminals because they're always looking at new tactics, so we're intent on staying a step ahead of them. And we also do a lot of innovation at PEXA. So sometimes we don't actually know where we might go next because we do this thing called prototyping, which is where people come up with ideas that we can really test quite quickly without having to build a prototype, and it helps inform where we might go next, what are the pain points potentially that some people are feeling, or what are the opportunities for us to deliver new enhancements. So I think also just keeping our platform, up to pace with technology. Technology is moving so fast in this day and age, so we have a very large technology team here at PEXA. So we definitely want to stay on top of the trends that are happening in the tech space and ensure that the exchange platform moves with it. So it's lots of exciting things on the horizon for us.
It sounds great, Lisa, and I know from a consumer perspective, as in I'm a customer of PEXA and we use it on a daily basis, in terms of service and the evolution of PEXA and the changes and moving forward with technology. I know that my team, for example, can ring up PEXA any time of the day, talk to someone if we need any assistance or just have an unusual question that needs to be answered. The PEXA team's there to help, and that's what I love about PEXA, because invariably it happens in practice on a daily basis. So that's great to see as well. So I'm very pleased to hear all of this. It gives me a more reassurance moving forward, of course, with being a PEXA user.
It's wonderful to hear that, because I think often people can think technology takes people out of the equation, but I think we've been really intent on providing great service, great people, and so it's wonderful to hear you say that.
Well, Lisa, great to talk to you this morning. I guess with a $7 trillion residential property market, you can understand why something like this is such a great help. And to think that we've been using that paper system for more than 100 years, it's certainly a step forward indeed.
Digital is the solution,
It is
right?
the solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want to find out more, PEXA, that is PEXA.com.au.
Yes, or you can actually speak to your own lawyer about the PEXA experience. And if your lawyer doesn't know about it, well, get
Time
a new
to get
lawyer.
a new lawyer. Yeah,
Exactly, and come and talk to me. So, yeah, thank you, Lisa, for joining us. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Lisa Dowie, their Chief Customer Officer of PEXA.